Hi, this is a pre-recorded video for a Memorydex for Valentine's Day. I'm filming this in the morning, so good morning, everybody. So excited to be here. For those that aren't familiar with what a Memorydex looks like, this is what a Memorydex looks like. Okay. So I have a die cut that I use to cut out of cardstock a Memorydex. If you don't have a die cut, you can absolutely cut one out by just taking a piece of cardstock, cutting it 3.5 to 4 1/4, and then what you will do at the bottom is you can punch out 2 holes at the bottom and then cut out the bottom portion, and then you'll have a Memorydex card. So this is one that I made. We can go through this together. I made this one using my die cut machine with some purple cardstock, and then I made a homemade envelope, mini envelope, put some stickers on it, added a tiny piece of ephemera with a button, and then put in a mini envelope. So there's so many things that you can do to decorate these Memorydex cards. As you can see, I have just literally pulled out a bunch of Valentine's bits and pieces from my stash, which I'm sure we all have a stash of bits and pieces. And so this is what we're going to use today to decorate, walk through decorating a new card. So we'll put this to the side. So the new card that I have, and I've done a little bit of decorating on it, but we're going to walk through it. The card, of course, is the Memorydex standard template that I showed you earlier. And I just started to pull out what theme did I want. And I love vintage. And so for me, coming up with a vintage theme meant starting with, did I want a person on the front of the card? And I decided that I would pull out this cut and collage Vintage People ephemera kit that I got through Amazon, and look through those and start looking at what I thought would fit, literally fit on a Memorydex card. And she fit the bill. So I went ahead and popped her on there. I'm gonna vintage her up a little bit. And I'm using ground espresso. I'm also considering using Victorian velvet for a little bit of pink, since this is a Valentine's Day project. Okay. So I love to layer, and I love lace. So what I did was I pulled out a piece of lace. I thought white would go best with it. And for white, we can even take some of our ground espresso and we can go over the lace so it's not quite as stark and as white. And I found some beautiful ribbon. Again, really just looking at what we can layer this up with. And so that's what I started with on here. And I went ahead and used Beacon 3-in-1, which is terrific on fabric and paper. So I used that to attach, just starting to make a cluster on the side there. You can add paper. Paper's another terrific way. And I'm using the Messy Craft Corner dyed paper. I thought this was a beautiful paper for a Valentine's project. So I pulled that out of my stash and popped that in there. And let's see what else we could pop in there. There's a beautiful butterfly. And maybe we just tuck that butterfly up under the bottom. And of course, once you get it to where you want it, you can glue it in there. Right now, I'm just sort of playing with what it could look like. I've got a button, so maybe we want to add a button in there, or this beautiful rose. We could even add another butterfly in to tie in with the butterfly that we've got peeking out underneath the cluster. So that's another. So again, go through your stash, look and see what you've got in your stash for the theme, matches the theme that you're doing. Okay. And then I've got this adorable little tag, mini tag, that I thought that I would pop in there somewhere. So maybe that lives there. And for the tag, I will break out this Victorian velvet, right? And maybe we'll do a little bit of the Victorian velvet on the tag. So that sort of brings out some of the pink. And the little tag was bent, so when you put the ink on it, if you can see, it really pulls out some of that within the little tag. Okay, so we'll put that on there. And I think I'm gonna change it up and put a pink butterfly in there. Okay, and I think since this pink is a little bit off, maybe we'll pop in a red heart. So you see that this really starts to come together, but play with it. Have fun. This is all about having fun, being creative, relaxing. For me, I have 3 kids and 3 grandsons. And so for me, coming into my craft room gives me the ability to take a breath, to not think for a few minutes. I know that sounds really weird. I think we're all used to going and going and going and having to think. And for me, I don't want to think for a few minutes, right? I also pulled out a bobby pin. So maybe you take the bobby pin and you do a little cluster with a bobby pin. So maybe you take some of your lace, and maybe you take some of the red lace, the white lace. And so the cluster that you made on the paper, maybe you start to make that cluster on the bobby pin and then tuck the bobby pin onto the Memorydex. So again, there's so many different things you can do. Maybe we'll want to take a larger button and pull a smaller button into it, which really pulls out the red and the white. And then maybe we want to put this little guy on top of the button so you get a different look. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and play with this and see what pops for me. I've also got some bling. So maybe you want to add some bling. Maybe she's a bling lady and she's going out on the town and she needs a little something something around her. Okay. Or perhaps, as we added our postcard to the other one, maybe we add a little mini postcard to this one as well. And I hope you notice that when I'm putting this stuff down, I am not worrying about placement. I am letting it go where it wants to go when I drop it. And then if it is not where I want it, then I move it. But I just want to see how it flows, what works with each other on here, what will look the best, and just having fun with it. If you want to put less on, maybe you don't want to put the bling on her, take the bling off. Maybe you want to add a larger sticker, right? And so we can certainly add a larger sticker. So I really invite you to go into your craft stash. Maybe you don't have, you know, crafts that are specific to Valentine's Day, but maybe you have a red button. And maybe you have a little bead that you can take some embroidery thread or even some sewing thread and go through that. So there's so many possibilities. So we can just play for a little bit. The other thing to look at is, do you have stickers that, for me, look vintagey? Because I really want this to have a vintage vibe, right? And so maybe I want to tuck in this sticker that has a vintage vibe on it, right? And I would say, if you're going to place this Memorydex card in a box and keep it to look at instead of just having it flat, be mindful of these at the bottom. So you don't, obviously we don't want to take the sticker and put it over it, because that's what you're going to need, right? You're going to take it and you're going to place it in a box. So you don't want to cover those up. So just some things to think about. Here's another bead. Maybe you could take that embroidery floss or the sewing thread, and you could make a couple of them. And maybe it's a dangle that comes off the side of the Memorydex card. The other thing to think about is, what do you have in terms of maybe it's a metal key. So adding a different dynamic into it. Maybe you have a safety pin and you want to hang those beads off the safety pin, right? Or maybe you've got this hair clip, and so what do you want to do on a hair clip? Well, you want to clip it to the side, right? But maybe you want to go ahead like we did with the bobby pin, and you want to decorate it up a little bit. So you would pop your glue on that, decorate that on there. So these are just some other ideas, depending on what you have. I also have this metal piece here where maybe I want to put a picture in the top and a picture in the bottom. And maybe it's a heart picture. Or maybe I want to take some of my bits and I want to put the bits in there. So there's so many things that you can do, and I really invite you to think different. It doesn't have to be the standard that you're probably thinking you need to do. But I've got some other things. I've got a dog tag that I could, maybe I want to glue the dog tag on there. Maybe I want to put some music on there. So just so many things go through your stash, see what you've got. Okay. So just some additional ideas for you. On this one that I did, I actually took my die cut machine and I made some keys out of cardstock. And then I took those keys and I started to spray some of my distress stains on there. And I started to give it this very rusty, rustic look. That's another thought. If you want to do something like that, really looking at what you've got. These are the keys that I made with my die cut machine. But really looking at what you've got and looking at them in a different light. So maybe you want to take these and you want to pop some, this is jack-o'-lantern, but maybe you want to take some of your distressed inks and dyes and spray them on there, right? Or maybe you want to take some of the inks that you've got and spray those or wipe those on there. So think different. This is your time to be really, really creative, right? So we could just take, you could even take the bling that we talked about, and maybe you want to put some of the bling on a key. So let's go ahead and finish this one up. Go ahead and get my stuff out here. And so we've got our cluster, which again gives a different element. There's even a little bit of bling within the red ribbon, right? And so maybe we want to go ahead and we want to put a button. Okay. So I just took my 3-in-1 and added a button. I think I am definitely going to go ahead and take this beautiful butterfly, and again, notice I'm not putting it in the straight angle. I turned it around and popped it in there, so very different. I'm wondering if this is too large. I think that's too large of an element. But again, you can look at the different elements that you've got. This is metal, okay? I do have a smaller metal button that I could also pop on there, and maybe to sort of pull away from how big it is, I could even maybe put the little heart on there, right? So it gives it a little bit more dimension. So now you've got not only the flat picture here, but you've got a pop of metal and a little bit of dimension. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Let's pop our fabric tack on there. Gotta love when your glue sticks to everything, including your fingers. And then we'll pop some glue there. And if your fingers start getting too gluey, you can certainly grab tweezers. You can grab whatever you've got on hand. If you need to move something out of the way, maybe you've got a little pokey tool, you could certainly use that. And again, just play, have fun. This is your creation. This is what makes you happy. So have fun with it. Okay. So while that's drying, I want to go ahead and take a look at this side. The top right is very obviously heavy with a button, with some metal, and so we want to weigh out and even out this bottom side. So I am going to go ahead and pop on a heart. Again, I put it at an obscure angle because why not, right? And then I want to go ahead and do a little bit. Let's see what that would look like down there. Maybe up here. So again, play with it. See what looks good. You know, maybe we don't want that heart to be like that. Maybe we want to bring it over a little bit. So lots of ideas. Okay. Another element we could have added on is this adorable locket sticker. So that's definitely got the Valentine's vibe, and that's something we could stick on. So I'm going to push this one to the side and let it dry and show you another one that I did, again, with a lot of different elements. One of the pictures of the ladies from the book I showed you, maybe she's looking in a mirror, so I put a mirror sticker behind her because she's going out, right? And over here, I added another cluster. For this one, I did add the butterfly, and I added a little bit more height and dimension with the pink rose flower with the tag. Okay, and again, we added this bling down here to even it out with the bling up in the upper right-hand corner. I also went around it with ground espresso so that I could give it a little bit more dimension, and sticking with the vintage theme, you could even take some of it and just put it over the card so that, it gives it that vintage theme. So these are just some ideas for you to help you get started. I hope everyone sees from this video that you really just pull out the things that you've got in your stash. If you don't have the die cut, grab some cardstock, right? Cut it 4 1/4 by 3 1/2. Punch 2 holes in the bottom. Cut those at the bottom, okay? And have fun with it. One more that I will show you is a very different kind, and this was a die cut that I did. All right, let me shut that off. I'm gonna have to. Another very different Memorydex card that I made was actually using a different die cut. And so I got this envelope die cut, made this, and thought, you know, I could really make that into a Memorydex card. So again, punch the holes out of the bottom, cut those pieces off so that it could fit into a box of Memorydex cards. And now I'm gonna just decorate it, you know, the same way that I did with the other Memorydex card. So you shouldn't be limited. Don't limit yourself to just this style and type. Again, have fun with it. And thank you so much for watching this video.